The bird on your dinner plate is a biological lie. It is 40 days old. It was bred to grow 3 times its natural size in half the time. Its bones are often too weak to support its own chest. It lives its short, miserable life in a crowded shed, pumped with antibiotics just to survive until slaughter. We call this dinner. The industry calls it efficiency, but history calls it a mistake. It started in 1946 with a national contest called The Chicken of Tomorrow. The goal was simple: redesign nature. Create a product that looks like an animal but functions like a factory machine. They succeeded, and for the last 80 years, you have been eating the result. But while we were busy engineering a sick bird in a laboratory, we forgot the master. We ignored the source that has been feeding humanity for millennia. Deep in the hardwood forests, growing on the side of ancient oaks, there is a meat that does not bleed. It has the dense texture of poultry, it holds the savory flavor of the wild, and unlike the factory chicken, it is immortal. It does not die when you harvest it. It returns, year after year, a perennial gift from the soil that requires no cages, no chemicals, and no cruelty. Nature built a better chicken, and she hid it in plain sight. Welcome to ancestral soil. The archive opens in the deep shade of the Northern Hemisphere forests. Before the invention of the supermarket, survival was a map of knowledge. And on that map, the Laetiporus sulphureus was a gold mine. Modern foragers know it as chicken of the woods, but this name cheapens its true value. This is not a substitute. This is a titan. Visually, it is unmistakable. It does not hide in the leaf litter. It erupts from the trunk of dying hardwoods in massive, overlapping shelves. It glows with a vibrant sulfur yellow and sunset orange that can be seen from 50 yards away. A single cluster can weigh over 50 pounds, enough to feed a family for a week. But its true power is not in its size. It is in its persistence. Most mushrooms are fleeting. They appear for a day and rot by nightfall. Laetiporus is different. It is a heart-rot fungus. It takes up residence in the core of a tree and begins a slow, deliberate process of digestion. It can live there for decades. For our ancestors, finding an infected oak tree was like finding a savings account. They knew they could return to that exact spot every autumn. They knew the golden shelf would be waiting. It was a source of clean, high-density protein that required no hunting, no arrows, and no preservation. It was the forest's way of converting dead wood into life-sustaining energy. While the modern world relies on the fragility of the supply chain, the old world relied on the resilience of the Laetiporus. But then, the knowledge began to fade. The context of 1946 changed the menu. We stopped looking at the trees. We started looking at the plastic-wrapped packages, and a food source that had sustained us for thousands of years was relabeled as a fungus, a risk, and finally, forgotten. To understand why this golden harvest was erased from our memory, we must look at the moment our food system changed forever. The year was 1946. World War II had just ended, and the Great Atlantic and Pacific Tea Company, known as A&P, launched a national campaign that would reshape biology. They called it the Chicken of Tomorrow contest. The goal was explicitly stated: to produce a bird with breast meat so thick you could carve it like a steak. Farmers across America were not asked to breed for health. They were not asked to breed for flavor. They were asked to breed for speed and geometry. The winner was a crossbreed involving the Vantris line. It was a genetic anomaly. It grew at a terrifying rate. By the time this new industrial bird reached the market, it had lost almost all of its omega-3 fatty acids.
It became a vessel for inflammation, kept alive in filthy conditions only by the constant injection of antibiotics. This is what you eat today, a product designed in a boardroom in 1946. But the industry had a problem. To sell this new artificial meat, they had to destroy the competition. They couldn't burn down the forests, so they did something more effective. They burned down the knowledge. They weaponized a concept known as mycophobia, the irrational fear of fungi. For generations, fathers taught sons how to identify the safe, vibrant colors of the chicken of the woods. It was common knowledge. But as the supermarket chains expanded, a new narrative took hold. We were told that the forest is dirty, that nature is chaotic, that unless food comes wrapped in plastic with a barcode, it is dangerous. They replaced survival skills with consumer dependence. They didn't just sell us a chicken, they sold us a cage.
But science has a way of correcting history. While the food industry spent billions marketing their product, independent researchers began to look closer at what we left behind in the woods. The results are not just surprising, they are a condemnation of the modern diet. Let us compare the data. On one side, you have the industrial broiler chicken, high in bad cholesterol, loaded with pro-inflammatory fats, and often carrying residues of the pharmaceuticals used to keep it alive. On the other side, you have Laetiporus sulphureus. Nutritionally, it is a powerhouse. When dried and properly prepared, it contains approximately 14 grams of protein per 100 grams. But unlike meat, this protein comes with zero cholesterol, zero hormones, and zero ethical compromise. But the true redemption lies in its chemistry. Modern analysis has isolated potent compounds within this mushroom, including rosmarinic acid and lanostanoids. These are not just nutrients, they are biological weapons. Medical journals have published studies showing that extracts from this mushroom possess strong antioxidant and antimicrobial properties. But it goes deeper. Research indicates that the polysaccharides found in Laetiporus have cytotoxic effects. In plain English, they show the potential to inhibit the growth of certain cancer cells. Think about that trade-off. The modern diet offers you a bird that is linked to heart disease and inflammation. The ancient forest offers you an organism that fights oxidation and defends the cell. Our ancestors didn't have microscopes. They didn't know what a polysaccharide was, but they knew how they felt after eating it. They felt strong. They felt clean. Science has finally caught up to what the tribes knew 3,000 years ago. The best pharmacy is not in the city. It is in the soil. Knowledge is useless if it stays in the mind. It must become action. It must become calories. Now that you know the truth about the industrial chicken and the power of the forest's alternative, the question is, how do you claim it? Finding Laetiporus is not difficult. It wants to be found. But before you step into the woods with a knife, you must obey the iron rule of the harvest. Rule number 1, know the host. This is where the amateur gets hurt and the expert survives. Laetiporus is a sponge. It absorbs the chemical compounds of the tree it consumes. If you find this mushroom growing on an oak, a cherry, or a chestnut tree, you have found a feast. It is safe, it is delicious. However, if you see those same orange shelves growing on a conifer, a pine, a spruce, or a hemlock, do not touch it. And if you are in a warmer climate, never harvest it from a eucalyptus. Why? Because the mushroom absorbs the turpentines, resins, and essential oils from these trees. It concentrates them. If you eat a sulfur shelf harvested from a pine tree, you are essentially eating concentrated turpentine. It will not kill you, but it will cause severe gastric distress. The aurist punishes the careless. It rewards the observant. Always identify the tree before you identify the mushroom. Rule number 2, harvest with honor. When you find a massive cluster, do not rip it all from the bark. You are not a looter, you are a steward.
Take your knife and cut only the outer 2 inches of the fans. This is the tender margin. This is the prime meat. The inner part, closer to the wood, is corky and tough. Leave it. By leaving the base intact, you allow the organism to continue sporulating. You ensure that next year, when you return to this coordinate, the harvest will be waiting for you again. This is not foraging. This is wild farming. Bring it home. Slice it into strips. Sauté it in butter, garlic, and thyme until the edges are golden brown. When you take that first bite, realize what you are tasting. You are not just tasting a mushroom that mimics chicken. You are tasting independence. You are tasting a resource that requires no factory, no suffering, and no permission from a corporation. The supermarket offers you convenience, but it demands your health and your ignorance in return. The forest offers you nothing but the truth, but you have to be willing to walk for it. The chicken of tomorrow was a lie. The chicken of the woods is the reality. The archive is open. The choice is yours. Welcome home to ancestral soil.